right, we're back, and we got a hell of an episode for you today. Before we get to that real quick, I guess in 2 weeks, December 3rd, 2nd, whatever. Second Friday, the Come Home to Christmas thing, Simon and I are going to be setting up right there in the foyer of the Morris Hotel, and we're going to do a show. We're just going to have people come in and out. If you got a business, come in. If you want to sit down and talk about it for 5 minutes, if you want to come on and gripe, if you want to come on and cuss Simon and I, you know, if you own any kind of business here in town and you've had a gripe with us.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, come on, you know. It's an open opportunity to anybody and everybody. If you've had gripes with us, potentially you bickered on the internet, now's your opportunity to come face to face.
Man up.
Absolutely. We can sit there and have a civil conversation. And so we're looking forward to that. Mostly we're just looking forward to people coming by and introducing ourselves. Coming in, saying hello, say what they like, maybe if you want to talk about what's going on, and just for the, you know, just to see the community. Really, if you want to get on there and gripe, fine, but it's Christmas time. That's not what we're looking for. We're just looking to talk about some good stuff.
Yeah, feedback from the community.
Yeah, absolutely, and just to kind of be out there. So you can come find us there and say hello, and we might have a raffle or something going on. We haven't talked about that yet. We're going to kind of get to that, and so come plan on doing that. Also, I think starting sometime this week, probably on Wednesday evening, Simon and I are going to start our little 30-minute Patreon thing. So go to our Patreon. It's patreon.com/getontap. Just $3 measly little dollars a month. And you'll be able to hear us gripe 30 minutes a week. Subscriber, uncut, unedited. And I think this week we're going to probably talk a little bit about, I want to talk about the voting process in this country and how it's gotten us kind of where we're at today and how just what a sham it's become. And I think Simon had a couple gripes with AEP.
Yeah, so, I got something on AEP that's really going to piss a lot of people off.
So I'm not sure who we're going to call and have on that first one. Maybe we'll get him at Bird, or maybe we'll go back and get Brandon from the Staple Appalachian. He'd be good to call in for 30 minutes. So we've got a lot of good shows coming up. We've got a lot of good people we've talking to. So go check us out. It's $3 a month. You get to support us. You get all these episodes that we do early, and you'll get that 30-minute kind of thing here. We're going to start giving you some more subscriber content. So as far as all that's concerned, also go check out Rocky Mountain Burger Company. We got to thank Brian for all he's done for the show and for feeding us a handful of times. I'll tell you, food will go a long way for me. So go down there and check out Rocky Mountain Burger, especially on a day like today. It's a Sunday. There'll be football on TV. You get you a cold brew. Everybody in there knows about everybody in this room. Every time I go in there, I can't remember. God, forgive me because I know she's going to listen to this. I can't remember her name, but every time I go in there, she says, "You're Amos's buddy." And she grew up in the church, I guess. So
sounds like Trinity.
That's exactly. There you go.
Yeah.
How could I not forget that name? But I apologize, Trinity. So yeah, I mean, I love that place. They're doing good for us. We're working on, some of these like TV names. Simon and I have been discussing coming on the show. People you see on some local TV shows, multiple ones. Or baseball players. Some thought about maybe going and doing some of those shows live at the Burger Company as well. So it's a chance for us to get out there. People will show up, buy some food, spend some money, help them out.
Support a local business.
Yes. So, check them out as well. Down there across from the Harvester. And we'll get out with this show. This show we've been looking forward to doing for a while here. And I know Simon's been yanking at my arm about this one for a while. So I'm going to let Simon tell y'all why this episode is important.
Well, it's been on the cusp of something that we should have been highlighting really a long time ago, because we're in a farming agricultural community, and the impacts that the farmers have in our community is actually, I think, grossly understated, and there's a lot of opportunity for people to get in with the farming community here, and I'm really trying to encourage that. Because I've got a very poor opinion of USDA, FDA, the utter stupidity and bureaucracy behind so much of the produce and livestock, and the inaccessibility of the general public. It's just a rant that I want to get into, and we've got some super guys here. Amos, Thad, and Chris, that are farmers in this community, successful farmers, and it's just good to get an opinion from these guys with what's going on, particularly with fertilizer costs going through the roof or inaccessible, fuel costs that are just outrageous, and really where the market's going, because I think if we haven't got our ducks in a row next year, there's going to be a lot of people going to find out the hard way that going in and looking at their shelves in Walmart and Kroger and Food Line, if they're going to be pretty shocked, I think. So, welcome Amos, Thad, and Chris.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Good to be back.
Good to be here.
You most of y'all remember Amos from some of our more animated shows, including all the Woodshop Chronicle episodes and our State of Appalachia show. So a lot of people...
Did you have to bring that up?
People go back and you need to listen to those, because those are shows that Simon's been on, and also the Pig River Precision show was, some of the handful of ones Simon was on before he kind of took a more permanent role here. But yeah, so Amos's episodes have always been some of the best, and of course, when he's not on here, constantly got people asking, why can't we get him on there enough? Something about his voice, something about the stuff he says. They like to hear it, so. You gentlemen, I want y'all to introduce yourselves one at a time and kind of talk about what your role is in the farming world.
Go ahead, Thad. I'll let you get it started.
Well, I'm a third generation dairyman. Actually, I'm sixth generation dairy, but a third generation on the current property. We have recently switched. We're still selling wholesale, but we have switched to retail. For the last 5 years, we've been chasing after that, and we have a little farm store, and we do delivery, and our delivery goes from Charlottesville to Withville, basically the I-81 corridor, and we have 26, I think, delivery drop spots. We don't deliver door to door, but we have meat, eggs, dairy products. That's, when I say meat, I mean pork and beef that's grown on the farm, and the eggs. And then we also, in our farm store, we have 26 other local vendors that are local producers from Franklin County that are represented with their products in our store that we sell. Anything from honey to cut flowers to cereal. We have guys producing cereal here in Franklin County, and it runs the gamut. We have some baked goods as well, and we're trying to kind of get away from the wholesale agriculture. Yeah, and the our business is Melvin's Farm to Fork Store. You can find it on the internet, and we also we have a farm store, and it's in Burnt Chimney. If you go down 116 2 miles and turn on Peters Pike Road.
I mean, I'd like to, when we get into the show, we start getting into the guts of the show. I'd love to know how you're navigating that narrow line as to what you can and can't sell through the various stupid laws that are out there that restrict you, and what a fine line it is between being legal and illegal in the eyes of certain bureaucracies that have got no business in your business.
Right.
So I want to get into that. I'm going to get hot on this one.
I think.
But we'll let Chris go.
Yeah, Chris, you go, because I got a couple things I'm going to.
Oh, yeah, we've cocked and loaded on this one.
Can I put one more thing out there? So
interject whenever you want to.
You said something about the impact of agriculture in Franklin County. And so agriculture's dollars, dairy in particular, and I'm a dairyman, so this has been my life. I eat, sleep, and breathe it since I was a small child. The gross domestic product, and for those of you who don't know what exactly gross domestic product is, it's not something that we produce. It is, let's just say Simon earns $100 and he pays Chris $50 for a load of firewood. Chris goes and he pays Amos over here. He pays Amos for a bushel of apples, and Amos takes that money and he goes to Walmart. We see that money has come from Simon, and it's gone to Chris, and it went to Amos, and now he shops at Walmart. And when he shops at Walmart, that money leaves town. Not only does it leave town, it goes out of the country. And so GDP is money changing hands. And so when we understand money changing hands, money in the dairy industry, because it's such a heavy capital intensive business, it changes hands 7 times before it leaves the local economy. The impact, and this is a few year old data, probably 6 or 7 year old data, but the impact of in Franklin County as far as GDP goes is $400 million for the dairy.
Good Lord.
Just for dairy. So that's what we create in Franklin County.
That's a staggering number.
And keeping that money circling in Franklin County, everybody profits. I mean, everybody can profit if you keep that dollar there.
Yep, keep it circulating with Franklin County, which is why I got so pissed off about the school doing their proms in Bedford County. Mm-hmm. That, to me, is the ultimate in stupidity. And we need to keep that money circulating. You know, it's a bit like the water cycle. We need to keep it circulating here. So, you know, I've got some ideas on how to do that, but I want everyone to get familiar and acquainted with Chris. I've known him for a couple of years doing various projects that we won't talk about just now. But, you know, he's one of the finest fellas I've come across.
All right, LT. I mean,
yeah.
Well, I'm Chris Montgomery. I'm one half of Foggy Ridge Cattle Company. You're not going to find us on the internet. We just went to an LLC this year. I walk a lot of the same lines that Thad does. Come from generations of dairy farmers, but I guess if I had to break it down, I'm a first generation dairy farmer working with a fourth generation dairy farmer. That's my primary job, and then raising freezer beef or beef shares or whatever you want to call it is my side hustle and hobby. And my partner is my brother-in-law. He couldn't make it here today. But Simon, when I started listening to these podcasts, I told Simon, I said, if you ever want to do a farming podcast, I'd come on and, you know, just do whatever with you. And, hey, I got an idea for that Summit View. If you want to get down to that.
Oh, I got some ideas on that too, but
yeah, I'm not quite as qualified to answer some of the money and where it goes as Thad is. Simply because he's been doing it a lot longer. And if you don't think Thad is a smart man, you're crazy. Straight up. If Thad speaks on something at a board of supervisors meeting, you can bet your money he's done his research.
And it'll be something the board of supervisors know nothing about.
I wanted to poke that bear for just because for you to get up and say that these people don't know what they're talking about. Thad, like a lot of dairy farmers, especially in the past, 10 years, has struggled. Mm-hmm. And you've had to adapt and overcome. And unfortunately, there's been a lot of dairy farmers who haven't been able to do that, and who are no longer farming anymore.
We've lost an enormous amount of dairy farms.
A lot. When I was growing up, and I was born in 1990, there were, within 3 square miles, probably 15 dairy farms. Mm-hmm. And you're down to 5, 6.
Yeah, that's an alarming
maybe
statistic.
In the Burnt Chimney area in the mid 80s, before the government buyout program, there were 26, I think, within probably 3 or 4 miles of Chris and I's place, and we're a couple miles apart.
But in the mid 80s, you could have 50 cows and raise a family.
Oh yeah,
right. And have hired help.
That's right.
For sure.
That's right.
So what's gone wrong? But before we do that, Amos, I think you need to come in here with your 2 penneth and get your digs in. I think you need to reintroduce yourself.
His side of farming.
Well, I mean, clearly, obviously, I'm the woodshop guy, contractor, and waste all my money on trying to farm.
Hey, you know how you become a millionaire in farming, don't you?
Turn up with 2.
Start out with 2.
But, I mean, me and my family, we're a true family farm. From my 70-year-old aunt down to my 6-year-old nephew. I mean, we farm as a family. Raise beef cows, have our own butcher shop, do our own butchering. My brother was a butcher for 13 years, and so a carpenter and a butcher had a dream to buy a farm from granddaddy and waste a lot of money, and it's worked well. over the last 25 years. But I mean, none of us farm thinking we're going to get rich. We farm because we love it. I mean, you don't wake up one morning and say, I want to be a farmer because I think I'm going to make money at it.
It's a lifestyle.
Yeah. I mean, you go down in 20-degree weather and drag a calf out of the edge of the creek, get covered in mud and other substances we don't need to talk about on air because you love, I mean, that's what, that you love it. I mean, that's what you live for. That's what, and it saves me getting in a lot of trouble, probably other places, but we're a true family farm. I feel like everybody should have the right to enjoy the quality of meat that I get to enjoy. The route from the farm to the table at my place is super short.
And what a concept.
Yeah, we got Simon in on butchering over there here a few weeks ago.
Well, I'm hoping to jump in on that here sooner or later when the wife starts letting me get out of the house a little bit more. Speaking of get me out of the house, and Chris talking about Thad being a super smart person, Amos said something to me the other night when I was up at his house. Thank my wife for allowing that to happen. I'll go up there and hang out for a few hours. And what was it you said? If you're hanging out in a room and you're the smartest person in there, you're wasting your time. So I'm just wondering who in this room right now is wasting their time, because it surely ain't me. Because I think I might be the dumbest person in this room.
That would be Thad, but I don't. But Thad will tell you he's not wasting his time.
Y'all tooting the horn. I don't know. I'm gonna be the first to tell you. I don't know what I'm doing.
I'm just wanting Thad to bring the political machine back out that his daddy used to have out all the time.
Oh, he's got it.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I'm excited about this show, and I know Simon had kind of told his side of it, and I've kind of wanted to do this for a long time, but you're going to kind of learn some of the ins and outs in it. Of course, we're going to throw in kind of our little, we're going to find reasons to bitch at the government here. We're going to try and keep it family friendly, because got a lot of farmers, a lot of their families going to be listening to this show, so hopefully no F-bombs or anything like that. But
I'm not known for it.
But the reason I'm excited about it is because sitting around this table right now, we've got a plethora of different kind of perspectives that you're going to be able to get. So you're not only going to get kind of the nuts and bolts and finding out the reasons why you pay way too much for your stuff and why we can't work together better as a community, but at the same side of things, there's going to be a lot of cool stuff you're going to listen to. And I want people out here to maybe start encouraging their kids to find out, different ways to make their lives a little bit easier by listening to the people around this table. Because everybody here, me, I was I grew up on a small farm until I was 16, and I think that's when my farming ended because I started chasing tail. But Simon, you're kind of a homesteader. Chris, you and Thad, y'all both have kind of really big farms that are throwing out a lot of stuff at a lot of people. And I don't want to, when I say part-time farmer for Amos, that's being a little disingenuous, because that's not really the case. It's just he has part of his time to farm and he has part of his time to do his contracting and woodworking stuff, but they're all full-time jobs.
I was going to say part-time farmer is that's for the guys who live in D.C. and go to their ranches on the weekend, to like Blake Shelton.
Yeah, Amos uses part of his time to farm and then part of his time to do the other stuff, but he puts in full-time hours for both.
That's
so,
right. That's right.
Well, you're in the field at 2:00 in the morning, and I may not be there with you because I'm going to bail at 10. I can tell you that much. But I know you're working. You're burning it at both ends. When that season demands it, you can't walk away from it.
Hey,
it's a commitment.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Last year we were combining, and I'm a nighttime guy. I would rather sleep in the morning, and I'll run all night if I have to. We were combining. I combined till like 1:00 in the morning, and got home and got the phone call. Hey, we got cows out.
Oh no!
And you put your boots on and go get them in.
I got back up, met the boss man where they was out at. We spent about 45 minutes chasing them around. Finally got them back in. Looked down, and it was 3:00. By the time we got the fence and all, well, I had an hour till we had to be back at the barn doing morning chores. I'm not going home to sleep for an hour, because I can tell you I'm not coming in till like 7:00. And so we went to the barn and started doing our chores. I mean, when I say it's a lifestyle, like Amos said, getting that calf out of that cold creek, or helping a mama cow give birth.
It's the best thing in the world.
It is. And farming, is personal to me because I didn't grow up with that dairy farming. I had 6 dairies right there within within a mile, literally. And my grandma, she raised us, me and my sister, and if she couldn't find us,
God bless her.
She would call all those farms to see which one I was at. And she would. When I get home, she would scold me. But that was what I wanted to be outside. I didn't want to be cooped up in the house. And so at the age of 9, I started helping the guy called my dad mowing yards. And so in the summertime, I was mowing yards up until I graduated high school, and then I went to work for Seven Oaks, and I worked there for 8 years.
Old Dave Bauer.
And so then I decided to finally give that up and come to work for the guy I was working for now. I'm working for now, Jamie Montgomery. And I started helping do the calf tour because I had some farming and he needed somebody that could handle calves out on the road. And we were going to Georgia, West Virginia, the Carolinas, and promoting the Homestead Creamery's milk. And I learned a lot that blew my mind from people in this city that do not know where their milk, their meats, their vegetables come from.
Let me throw one line in here, because this is the one that it really gets my goat. Why, in Franklin County, are we drinking milk from California?
You tell me. Thad can answer that one probably.
Most of it actually is probably not that far away.
It better not be.
Most of the milk that's produced in Franklin County that's sold wholesale goes to Charleston, West Virginia, and gets bottled as United and comes back.
Good. I mean, I'm very close friends with the Barnharts, and
Yeah.
I have an immense respect for the amount of work and the amount of financial burden it is to run a big dairy farm.
Right.
I mean, I was astonished when a couple of numbers slipped out with regards to fertilizer costs and all that good stuff. And I just like, good Lord. I mean, I don't know how, it just blew me away. And then to have, products of California coming out of the fridge from Kroger just does me in. And knowing that they don't and can't get access to their own milk for their benefit, maybe to make cheese, maybe to have milk for their family because of the contamination issues with the tanks and all of that good stuff. And the cooperatives that are set in place now where you have to do business seem to crush an entrepreneurial element of what a dairy farmer can and should do to diversify with his product, and they're just not allowed to do it.
That's right.
And it's all about
regulation.
It's all about regulation and bureaucracy from people that have got no business making those bureaucratic laws. I mean, for example, and I'll get off my soapbox in a minute.
No, you won't.
No, I won't. Is in Pennsylvania, you can sell unpasteurized goat milk. In Virginia, you can't.
You can sell unpasteurized cow's milk in Pennsylvania. It's legal.
Exactly. So why, from state to state, do they deem, and the powers that be that enforce it with significant fines,
An armory.
Well, I mean, yeah, they'll come in with fatigues fully armed to enforce these bureaucratic laws, and quite frankly, that's offensive.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense. So there's something going on, as far as the state is concerned, in the bureaucracy of farming, and it is not healthy because it is not for the benefit of the farmer or the end user, being me. All right, I need access to quality, and I'm not getting it because.
Well, you would like to have access to quality.
Well, the reason I farm is because I'm making sure that my lambs are not having any growth hormones, no antibiotics. They're in a closed herd and grass fed and all that good stuff.
But and I'm sure Thad will back this up. A whole lot of the growth hormones, that stuff has gotten extorted so far out of proportion. That stuff don't happen like they want you to believe it happens. Nor are we, most people think that farmers, we trash our animals, we hate our animals, we're cruel, cruelty. Dude, I'm gonna tell you, everybody sitting here will tell you. That's our love. That's our bread and butter.
That's our bread and butter.
I'm sure you can find this guy here that treats his animals, Well,
I think that has a lot to do with what Chris was talking about, going to some of these cities and seeing how these people don't understand. What they'll do is they'll see a YouTube video of some factory farm somewhere where they just shove animals into a chute and don't really care about them. We don't have that's not reality.
But that's what the government wants.
Yeah,
they can regulate. They can regulate 5 guys. They can't regulate 500. When you got all these family farms out here, everybody's got 100 cows apiece or 80 cows apiece, like it used to be. That's basically unregulatable. There's too many people. So if we can,
by regulate you mean control.
Yeah, if we can force these people out of business and have mega farms, then they have much more control over a mega farm than they do Thad with, his small farm, Chris.
But plus they have control over you. They know where your food is coming from, and they can slow it down or speed it up as they see fit. They don't like the fact that you can go to your neighbor and get hamburger. They don't like the fact you can go to your neighbor and get vegetables. They don't like the fact that you can barter with each other, because when you barter with each other, you're cutting them out, because that middleman, that tax is what they want. So at the end of the day, that's essentially what it's all about, because you don't need all these regulations.
Big ag has got so out of control, and it is not for the benefit of the populace. And it's that simple. So part of this show, excuse me, is encouraging folks to develop relationships with the local farmers to them. And whether that means you're going to be breaking certain rules about how you obtain some of the finest meat products, dairy products, that are accessible to you at a far more reasonable price, because you're cutting out at least probably 6 or 7 middlemen from the food chain, because the guys that have to sell their cattle at $1,800, live weight, that then somehow create $6,000 of profit to the middlemen.
1,800.
Well, it's down to 12 or whatever it may be. It's all down to size and availability with the market. Has Texas got a drought and all that good stuff? So it's all about the middleman taking the lion's share from the farmer that's actually producing the products, and we should be rewarding the farmer who has got everything in the game. Right. And that's what really aggravates me.
So, Thad, what made you decide to do the Melvin's Farm to Fork? What made you decide, all right, I'm going to just, a shot in the dark, go on this venture? Did you feel like that you could improve your bottom line, hopefully, maybe one day?
Well, the real story is I was quitting.
You had to diversify.
And I thought
I had it because the truth of the matter is, and I don't want to divulge too far into the political realm, but
we'll do that.
The early 80s.
Your daddy would like it.
In the early 80s, Ronald Reagan took us off parity. Now, what is parity? Parity is the price of agriculture commodities in the formula to figure out what those are. Inflation is included in that. So Ronald Reagan took us off that. And then in the early 90s, Bill Clinton put all of commodity agriculture on the stock exchange. So that means the holders of short-term money, those are banks and insurance companies, they can buy and sell commodities, never take possession of them, and they can take a part of the pie.
Yeah, that's the middleman that we're talking about.
That's the middleman that we're talking about.
Despicable usurers.
What has happened, because we took off parity and now we have middlemen taking part of the pie, and those are banks and, again, holders of short-term money, banks and insurance companies, the price of milk
pension holders
is flat. It's been flat since about 1981. So
and everything else has
gone bananas. I mean, you could buy health insurance for a family of 5 for $85 a month in 1981. Now it'll cost you $8,500, and you'll have a $10,000 deductible. So you tell me what's happened. But when you begin, I mean, I want to back up a little bit and talk about what you said a few minutes ago, Simon, which is the fact that that it's legal to buy raw milk in Pennsylvania, and it's not so in Virginia. Now, the problem with this is the federal government has involved themselves in something that they don't belong in. Because
that's not uncommon.
Each state should be allowed to set their regulations.
States' rights.
Because that's exactly what they're supposed to do. So if Virginia determines that raw milk sales should be illegal, they should be illegal. If Pennsylvania decides it should be illegal, it should be legal. I'm opposed to raw milk sales being legal for the simple reason that if raw milk sales is legal, anybody that has a milk cow can jug up a couple gallons of milk and put it at the convenience store. Now, when Joe Schmo driving down the road, going from A to Z, maybe even traveling through the state, stops at the store and buys a gallon of milk because he wants some milk, he has an expectation of safety. And that expectation of safety must be met by somebody. He may read the label, he may not read the label. That's not his job necessarily. And the expectation of safety comes from the state regulations that are going to come with legalized raw milk sales. The loophole is the fact that in Virginia, they allow you to consume milk from your own cow. And so therefore, a herd share or a cow share program allows you to consume raw milk from a cow that you own. At Sweetland Farm, which is the purveyor of the raw milk herd share at Melvin's Farm to Fork store, we have about 800 families that get a gallon of milk a week because they own 35 cows on our farm. And we have contractual obligations. And the contract spells out the risks and the rewards for each individual, so the expectation of safety is met by me and the Sweetland Farm ownership, who is in control of the herd share program. So that therefore all that stuff's ironed out, and the government is left out of the picture, as it should be.
As it should be. I totally grasp your point about regulation with regards to the safety, security of the end product.
Right. I
get that. But having the federal government's dirty little fingers on it, quite frankly, is the one that gets me going. I think the herd share is the way to go through that loophole. And again, this is down to local people supporting a farmer that has got the know-how and the confidence and the trust with whatever third party or direct milking facility that he has to stand behind that product. Now, if you've got a failed product that you're putting out there, you're not going to be in business very long.
That's right.
And so I understand that concept, but the accessibility from the general public, whereas in the old days, this is back in the UK, you would have, and I'm sure it happened here, you would have multiple dairies spread throughout the region. That's no longer the case.
Well, and that's where big agriculture comes in.
And Big Ag has crushed it.
Big Ag has crushed it because the truth of the matter is processing milk creates a different product than what the cow produces. And so our bodies, when the Lord created us, and He created the animals, created the cows, He created a product from that cow that is the perfect product for our bodies to heal itself.
Yep.
And so when we consume a product that is unaltered from God's intended way for it to be, then our bodies, under the miraculous way that they're built, can fix themselves.
Well, and that's the wonder of unpasteurized milk. Well, when you pasteurize it, you're killing it. And there's a very simple product that comes out of the UK, and it's very specific to Devon and Cornwall about unpasteurized milk, and they call it Devonshire cream. And it's a double clotted cream that is spectacular on apple pie. And you cannot make it with pasteurized milk or pasteurized cream. It has to be unpasteurized in the process to make it this. It's almost like a custard. If you've never had it, brace yourself. When you see it on the shelf in the little blue jars, on occasion, it'll be called Devonshire clotted cream or something like that. But that golden apple pie is amazing. I can't make it because I don't have access, because I don't have the herd share to unpasteurized milk.
Just donate a few dollars to him.
Well, I wasn't going to say. Well, you know what? I'm the first one to say that, and this is the relationship that we should be developing with our farmers, because they're not going to be giving you a product that is going to be faulty, or tarnished, or foul, because it's not in their interest. I mean, you develop relationships with local farmers and go round the system, beat the system, because, you know, you're going to get such a better product from dealing with your local farmer. And this is the relationship I want everyone to establish here in this community, because it's our industry. This is what we fall back on.
You know, this is something that's baffled me. We have our own butcher shop. Obviously, you've been there. I have took cows to have butchered, to get stamped, to sell the meat. And the facility I took that cow to, not nearly as nice as my facility on my farm. But yet, I'm taking my cow down there to get a stamp put on the meat saying, yep, you're good to sell it, in a facility that is
subpar to yours.
Yes, that I would be questioning eating the meat out of it. But yet I can't butcher that same cow and sell that meat to you.
Ridiculous.
And basically, when you're talking about an FDA stamp, you're just talking about a guy
It's a
sitting
USDA.
there. USDA. I'm sorry, USDA, which is it's all the same government.
Well, it's just
BS.
Yeah.
So basically, the USDA stamp is basically some guy sitting there watching the cattle walk on their own power, and if they walk on their own power into wherever they're going, they get the stamp. Nothing else really matters.
Well, they have to check your carcass.
Yeah, the USDA's job is to check the farmer. They don't check this. They don't check the facilities. The facilities are state inspected.
Yeah.
You know, some of the large facilities, I'm sure they probably do, but the job of the USDA, what they have to do is they have to inspect the animal, the live animal, and then the carcass to make sure that there's nothing wrong.
But
with it.
the carcass is at the butchering facility that us Brits call abattoirs. It's frightfully posh. But, you know, so that's away from the farm. Mm-hmm. You know, those facilities away from the farm. Amos has the ability and capability of doing it on his own farm,
right?
With a facility that is way more. It's got it's the cleanliness is above par from the facility that would be a USDA stamped abattoir.
Well, it's going to be because that is Amos's facility, and he's not going to want to process his meat in some crap facility and not keep it up to par. Because he doesn't. I mean, that's a risk that you take. You know, if you don't keep your stuff clean, then you're
exposing yourself.
Yeah, you're exposing yourself. And as a family man, he doesn't want to expose his family to that, and neither do I.
So we've got a USDA.
How much does that USDA stamp cost? How much is it going to add on to the consumer per pound?
You're saying to get a cow butchered?
I'm just saying, rough estimate. How much more?
$75 to $100 a cow.
Yeah,
more,
and that's over and above the butchery cost as well.
That's right.
Of just a state.
That's just to
butcher.
get stamp.
So it's
so you can't open a facility like he has without state inspection. VDAX is going to Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Service is going to come inspect your facility. So you have state inspection, and my argument is that we ought to be able to get at state inspected facilities, which is all of them. We ought to be able to sell meat by the pound, because that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah,
because you can sell. You know, you can do shares like Chris talked about, which means you sell the cow while she's live to 3 or 4 or 5, as many as 8 different people, and you take it then to the butcher, and the people that bought the cow go pick up the meat and pay the butcher. That's called a share, and that's outside the realm of the federal government because they don't regulate that.
And the difference between
the state facility you ought to be able to take that cow and sell by the pound. And the reason why we need to sell by the pound is because, like Chris said, people have a trouble with getting 200 pounds of meat.
So
they don't know what to do with it, and they can't afford to pay for it, and they don't know what to do with it. They don't have freezer space for it. And so when you sell by the pound, then they begin to pick the pieces that they want, and they buy what they want.
Which now we're coming into different prices per pound.
Yeah, you have to be USDA inspected to do that.
That's the only way to buy a pound is it's got to be USDA stamped to buy by the piece or the pound versus by the share.
Right. Thomas Massey is he a senator?
He is a congressman out of Kentucky, and I'm glad you referenced him because I'm a huge Thomas Massey fan.
So he introduced legislation, I think in 2017, it might have been 2018, that was called, I can't remember what it was called, but it was basically so that state-inspected facilities, you can sell your meat by the pound within the confines of your state, which is a reasonable regulation. That's the way it should be. Because the farm industry, that's going to be the Cattlemen's Association and Farm Bureau, they think we all should be treated the same. So in other words, Walmart should be treated the same as Melvin's Farm to Fork store. Well, if you come to Melvin's Farm to Fork store and you're a regular patron there, my wife's going to send you a birthday card when it's your birthday. Walmart ain't going to do that.
That's exactly right.
And a pound of hamburger.
It ain't the same. It's not the same. We're not the same entity, so you can't treat us the same.
That's right. So let's Thad. So we'll just throw Dotsons out there. We've been using Dotsons for our processing. They don't have USDA inspection, but they are still a Virginia state inspected plant.
Right.
Yeah.
So how come I can't sell my meat processed by them out of my freezer?
You can't sell it by the pound. You can't sell it out of your freezer because the federal government controls that.
That's right.
They have a say on that.
That's right. That's
even though the slaughtering facility is inspected by the state.
That's right.
Yes.
So the conflict is pretty self-evident. It's an inspected facility that is restricting you, the farmer, from getting the lion's share of margin on a product that you should be able to sell by the cut and by the pound.
Yeah.
How do we overcome this?
I'm glad you asked.
Small government.
I knew he was the smartest man in the room.
I'm glad you asked. Well, I mean, really,
Legally.
Really, the burden goes back to our representation. So VDACs, Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, should not allow the federal government to come and overstep its bounds because VDACs has the authority, and VDACs is ultimately the authority. And if the federal government comes and decides to pick on Chris, also the sheriff should be involved in it. It says, look, our state law says, look, this is what the state law is. You guys have no jurisdiction here. If somebody's going to get arrested, it might be you wearing a federal badge.
I like the sound of that.
Not Mr. Montgomery over here who had selling beef out of his freezer. Now, we generally don't have political people who have the stones enough to take that sort of thing to issue.
Well, I think we need to.
We need some people like that. That's exactly right.
Well, you've got one in the room right now, and you've got one that's in training. So, I mean,
I'm about to blow the lid on it.
It even goes further than that. I know for a fact that some of the state inspected butcher facilities, the federal the federal government will basically send moles there and try to get them to buy meat by the pound to catch them.
Yeah,
that's called entrapment.
I mean, and I know that happens. I know it has happened.
Well, you look at some of the farming videos you see on YouTube, and there's this big uproar of these employees that got caught slinging a baby calf into a cinder block wall, and then they have permission because they have photo evidence or video evidence to go in and do these researches on this farm. Well, a couple of years ago, it turned out that these employees were actually working for the federal government.
Huh. Imagine that.
Imagine that.
This is still the family show, right?
And that goes back to that.
Yeah, it's a family show.
that goes back to what you were saying, Simon, with why you was asking about being legal to sell milk shares in Pennsylvania. Well, that Amish farmer, he was selling milk shares. He was well within his rights of what he was selling to his customers, and the federal government didn't like it. So they acted like a big bully and went in.
And they again...
And crushed him.
The federal government has no business. That is overreach, and it is not in the founding fathers' constraints of how the federal government should be operating. And if the state doesn't take this back up and grow a pair, they're still going to have control over this and threaten us with the stick and not the carrot. And I'm done with that.
Well, it comes back to the fact that we could spend all day talking about the federal government and their overreach, but they have what they call now the nutrition plate. It used to be a pyramid. They have no authority whatsoever to do that. Okay, the Constitution doesn't give them authority to tell us what to eat. Nor is it proper for us to allow that as people to allow that to happen, because everybody is for sale.
Oh, absolutely.
Everybody is for sale. And when you get the Nutrition Committee in the federal government, or whatever, the Dietary Guidelines Committee, they're for sale. And whoever is going to come along, that's who's going to get the biggest piece of the pie on the food pyramid. And they will feed you whatever it is that's going to benefit the people that sit on that committee. Not you as an individual, but the people who sit on that committee. So when you look at the nutrition guidelines and the labels, they're all there to benefit somebody that ain't you, who's going to be the end user.
I'm glad you said nutrition. Can we talk about nutrition for a minute? Seriously.
We're all very nutritious in here.
So, when you have a product, be it milk or beef, and it goes to a plant and it gets shipped out to a store, that quality of product is downgraded tremendously. One, because it's probably being thawed and frozen.
You know it.
Blending the good with the bad.
Yes. And then the preservatives put on it. Not so much the milk. The milk is preserved by the pasteurization process, right?
That's correct, but they fortify. Milk is vitamin fortified,
and then they refortify it.
And the reason why it's fortified is because
it's cooked
the pasteurization process. It doesn't kill it, but it disables our bodies from digesting those things. So we pass it right through.
And that's why you have a lot of
minerals that are naturally in milk. They pass right through, so they have to add back, and that's the stuff that a lot of people will have
lactose intolerance.
Yes,
that's right.
And they gas up the meat to make it stay red.
Colorizing.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, I mean, it definitely is not the same thing you're getting at Melvin's Fork to Farm or my farm or your farm.
That's right. When you buy beef from me personally,
as a share,
as a share, yeah, it comes off my farm, goes to the processor, and it hangs. It's at the processor for about 14 to 15 days. It hangs.
Beautiful aged tongue meat. Beautiful.
And you pick it up, take it home, put it in your freezer. Nobody else's hands has touched it. It's not set in the store for hours on end. We had a customer last year. He contacted me. He said, "Man, I will never buy store meat again." He said, "It was my wife's anniversary."
Can you say that one more time?
I will never buy store meat again. He said it was my wife's anniversary.
It's called store-bought.
He said it was me and my wife's anniversary, and he said it was a week out. I went to the store. I bought top-grade steaks. I put them in the refrigerator in the back to let them thaw out and marinate. He said I pulled them out, started cooking them, and he said they had this nasty rank smell. He said this is not the first time or the second time. This is the third time this has happened.
What was on it?
You tell me. I don't know.
Because you can wet age and dry age meat in your, as you call it, refrigerator. And there is that process out there. If you haven't had the ability to dry age your meat at certain controlled temperatures and hang it for up to 14, maybe 21 days. So you can bring that aging process into the refrigerator if you wet and dry age it as a cut. And at that point, those enzymes start to break down and you get that wonderful flavor.
When you have kids that have quit eating hamburgers and steaks and roast and...
Oh, it's a crime.
Yes, it's a crime. I mean, listen, I'm going to tell you, I am a steak fanatic. I'm a meat fanatic. I will eat. It
shows too.
Oh, yes, it does. Yes, it does. That's my cushion, man. That gives me a little extra padding when you're working on the gravel. But when you have kids out here who won't drink milk because it tastes nasty, well, that milk has been put in a carton. Like when I was in elementary school, it come in a carton. And it's at, 43, 45, 47 degrees. You get milk that is lightly pasteurized to save the good bacteria and get rid of the bad, and put it in I'm going to say glass container because
it should be a glass bottle.
Right. Dude, they love it. They suck this stuff up like it's a sippy cup. And it's the same way with meat. When your kids quit eating meat and you put a brand new or a fresh steak in front of them and you have to force them to try it, and then they cut a bite and they're like, and next thing you know, the whole steak is gone, and they're like,
it's magic.
They're like, Mom, if we can get meat like that, I will go back to eating meat. But if we can't, I'm going to be a vegetarian. Well, I'm here to tell you right now, you can't get all your nutrition from vegetables.
You ain't into tofu?
No, that's the other thing I wanted to talk to Thad about. Listen, I am not a tofu. If I have to use a blowtorch to toast my bread, I'm not about it.
I mean, and you touch on a subject there that...
But hang on a minute. So, I can't remember if you went to that class or not, Thad. It was presented by the University of... Tennessee, maybe. But they come in and they give us this pamphlet, and it was about this thick, and it was on raising feedlot. It was on feedlots, and they went through. There was one section. I meant to have gotten it from my brother-in-law so I could bring it in here, but there was one section in there, and they took a study of animals that were raised on a feedlot with a growth hormone injected in their ear, and broke it down by ounces, and they had M&Ms, tofu, 1 ounce of beef. This was all off of 1 ounce, and they went down through, and to get the same amount of hormones that is in, I can't remember if it was M&Ms or tofu, you would have to have like 3 semi-trailer loads of hormones to get that same amount out of 1 ounce of beef as it was in the tofu or something. I can't remember the exact numbers.
I don't know. I didn't go to that.
Okay. But it's crazy. And I just seen a thing the other day that FDA approves the sale of lab-grown meat.
Oh, don't get me on that. I made some comment recently.
You think we got health
recently.
problems now?
Why is Bill Gates the largest farmland owner in this country, and he's the SOB who's promoting and trying to ram down everybody's throat this lab-grown non-meat? And let's call it non-meat. I'm not going to call it meat because it isn't. I'm not going to call soy milk because it isn't. It's bad for you.
And show me the damn teat on an almond.
Yeah. and how dare they? Why has the milk industry not stood up? And I know they've tried, and whether they succeed or not, I hope they do, is crushing these false products that claim to be milk and are clearly not. And they are far... They are, well, this is big ag, and this is where I get hot and thankfully, I'm probably going to be able to control myself. The big ag is our enemy, and I'm going to let everybody know it. Big ag.
Well, but if we back up to what I said earlier about taking us off parity and then putting us on a commodity exchange, and Obama done some things too with derivatives, so that agriculture is now we're basically at the mercy of the middle guys.
And we shouldn't be. It's a disgrace.
That's right. We shouldn't be. But the reason why that we have feedlots.
That's Amos, by the way, opening a beer.
The reason why we have feedlots is not because that's a great way to raise cattle. It's a terrible way.
Of course it is.
And the farmers don't want to do that. But the reason why they do that is because the efficiency that it creates to add a few pennies onto their profit margins, because profit margins, economics have been so terrible for the last 40 years that if you're going to make a living at it, you have got to get all the pennies you can get out of it. So you add hormones, you add all these things to mask the fact that you're not doing it the way it's supposed to be done. And the way it's supposed to be done is on grass. Grass-fed cows can solve the climate issues that we have in this world.
Can you just say that statement one more time?
Grass-fed cows can solve the climate issues that we have.
Turns out that's kind of what they've always done is eat grass.
Yeah.
Funny
but the reason for that is people think we need to get rid of cows. Well, that's completely the wrong answer, because the fact of the matter is we do have a lot of prairie in this land, in this nation. So if it all went back to prairie and we quit raising corn because we don't have cows to eat it anymore.
Well, why are we putting corn in fuel?
Then the grass is going to reach a maturity and it's going to stop growing. And so what happens when it stops growing? I mean, it's never going to stop growing completely, but it's going to quit taking carbon out of the air, because the root system has reached a maturity level where it cannot expand anymore. When the cows come along and eat that grass, part of the roots die off, and so that root system grows again, and it takes more carbon out of the sky and creates the carbon bank that can potentially save us from our problems.
I'm starting to figure out
I'm sitting here watching you, and your mind is like smoking. I told you this was the smartest man in the room.
I'm starting to figure out that Thad is way more like his daddy than I ever realized.
Hey, real quick, what was that sign your dad, or was it you, had on the manure spreader?
He put up, I don't remember what year it was.
Oh, it was almost every season.
Oh, yeah, he did it for a few years in a row, but he put up a sign on the manure spreader out next to 116 out there that said, "Political machine."
I had it sitting in the field with a banner across the side.
Dude, you could see it from both directions when you come down. It was just right on the side.
You told me a good story on Friday night about his daddy. Something about going to was it a stockyard or something?
No, it was like a dairy expo.
Yeah.
And Peter was out there protesting.
Oh, yeah.
Carry on, Thad. You tell it.
Now, does he know? He knows it too. Oh,
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, of course he does.
Yeah, he was out there. I think he was with Farm Bureau. He was at the Capitol building for some reason. This is in Richmond, not Washington, D.C. But he was at the Capitol building, and Peter was out there protesting or something. This lady was and walking along passing out stuff, and he engaged her in conversation, asked her if she had children and, what she did for a living, and kind of just, and when he asked her about her children.
Well, she was ranting
she all lit up and everything, and he looked at the pamphlet, and he said, I got a bunch of cows, and he said, where's your children at today? And she said, well, they're in daycare. Well, shouldn't they be sucking on the you know what? He said, you're out here chastising me. I'm a dairy farmer. You're out here chastising me because my calves are taken away from the mama. What about yours? Ain't your children more important than my cows?
Hey, I've run into that when I was doing the calf tour for the creamery, and I might get scolded for this, but I run into that more times than you think. Well, that's just wrong to take the calves away from the mama. And you look at them and say, do you have kids? And if they do, you ask them where they're at.
Yep.
And they get stunned. They're like,
yeah,
you've got somebody else raising your kids too. So don't come to me.
The hypocrisy is in front and center.
Well, it's just people that are completely stupid, to be quite honest. I mean, my dad, worked for Salem City Schools, and they had a farm day. So we'd take some baby goats, some chickens, for the kids over there. And one of the teachers, one there was a rooster in the cage, and he started crowing. And like the teacher,
Was it cock-a-doodle-doo?
the teacher like was completely like what's going on? What's that rooster? What's that chicken doing?
Ain't no chicken.
And my dad was like, well, that's a rooster. He crowed, and she was like, they don't say cock-a-doodle-doo. And
Someone's been listening to Bugs Bunny a little bit too much.
This is the lady that's teaching kids.
Hey, Simon, what part of the chicken does a nugget come from?
Amos, hang on a minute, Simon. Amos, I wouldn't say that it's stupid. So the one thing, and the reason why I say that is the people that grew up in these cities. So when I was on the calf tour, we was in Atlanta, Georgia, and we were down there for 6 days. We went down Monday, did a show, and then we had 2 shows a day, and we come home. Well, we drove part of the way Saturday night, but we were down there, and I met a 87-year-old. Forgive me if it's not politically correct. Black lady.
You're black, Chris.
Well, I mean, I'm trying not to hurt anybody's feelings, which
No, don't worry.
I get from this.
This is the Appalachian podcast.
Well, I get that, but hey, look.
I didn't drop the F-bomb. It wasn't me.
So I met this 87-year-old black lady that lived in Atlanta, Georgia. She's lived in Atlanta, Georgia her whole life. Never been outside of Atlanta, Georgia in 87 years that she could remember. And as an adult, all she did was go to the store and get her essentials that she needed from the store, Kroger or whatever. And so when she come out of the store, this is hilarious. She seen the calves and she's like, "What the? There's baby cows in the parking lot." And her son was like,
In Atlanta.
Yeah, in Atlanta. And her mom, her son was like, "Yeah, Mom, those are baby cows." She was like, "Well, what are they doing here?" "Well, they're here to promote their milk." And she was like, "What milk is that?" And he's like, "Mom, it's the ones in the glass bottle. You drink it all the time." And she was like, "Milk comes out of them baby cows?" No, hang on a minute. I'm about to blow your mind. So she had never been to the Atlanta Zoo either. What I'm telling you is her whole life, 87 years, all she has ever done was went to the store and gotten her food products. Dude, we talked with her for an hour and just, from being a country farm boy and talking to a lady from Atlanta, Georgia in the city, dude, my mind was blown and her mind was blown. And this is where the farmer to customer chain is broken. And that's why I was saying earlier, when we were talking offline, I like to interact with my customers as much as possible. That way, if they feel like that they're, if something is wrong, they can talk to me. Plus, that helps me do a better job at raising a quality beef that I can sell.
Well, I've talked to Simon and Billy both about this. If I'm raising beef and I'm selling beef to Simon, to Billy, to whoever,
as a share,
hypothetically, I ain't selling it to none of you. I just give it to you.
You get that.
I'm proud. I'm proud of my product.
we should be.
And I'm not going to sell them anything that I wouldn't eat. And that's where true capitalism. It goes back to that.
It meets the road.
Yeah, I would never sell anything to somebody that I wouldn't eat myself. Now, you look up all the regulations and stuff for these huge butcher plants. It is in the regulations, they're allowed so many parts per million of rat mice parts. A mouse gets in the line and runs through the machines, it's acceptable.
Billy, you're going to have a protest outside of your house. They're not going to want anybody to come
Peter's
by.
going to come knocking down your door.
Bring them.
But, what I'm saying is,
I've got the high ground.
the product you go and buy in Walmart, you go buy in Kroger, the tolerances for that product is way beneath what I would ever put in my mouth.
Yeah.
But most people have no conception that that's the way it is. I mean, you tell me.
That's an alarming statistic. The fact that it is acceptable to have mouse and rat parts as parts per million in a finished product from a USDA inspected and run plant.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, plants that size. I mean, you
Well,
know
of
it's going to
course.
happen,
And that's the issue.
and that's where
Big ag.
the E. coli. I mean, that's where that comes from. You're not getting that off of a small farm like Melvin's or Chris. That ain't. I mean, yeah, we're going to have accidents. I mean, but you're not going to get the griminess.
E. coli is coming, and I'm going.
I don't even say it, Simon. I know where this is going. Don't
Okay,
even.
I'll backtrack and I'll save you the gory details.
So to finish my story on that lady in Atlanta, so she wanted so bad to touch one of these calves, but she couldn't bring herself to do it.
Was scared of them.
Was scared of it, terrified. And her son and her daughter-in-law were standing right beside of her, and she's got this walker, wheeled walker, and I'm standing there talking to the lady, and the boss man that was with me, he's got one calf, I've got the other calf. Well, the son is talking to the boss man, and the calf is making its way around.
Uh-oh.
And the ladies, I mean, me and her are engaged, and all of a sudden she lets out this squeal.
Please tell me the calf gave her a hunch.
Hey, she pushes the walker.
She got goosed.
She pushes the walker and starts to walk back across the parking lot
It's a
to
miracle.
Kroger's. The calf had started sniffing her and reached up and licked her elbow. Her son, Mama, if I'd have known that's all it took you to get to walking better, I'd have had a calf down here years ago. You don't need that walker. I mean, he is laying into her. And then when she come back down off of that I would say high, she spent another 30 minutes petting the calf.
Ain't that great? That's a great story.
And so, she's like, you know what? This is so therapeutic. She said, I've lived in Atlanta. She said, I've seen gangsters. She said, and I've done a lot of stuff in my life. She said, but nothing has ever brought me a peace like interacting with this animal.
And that's, that's sad.
Amen to that.
Well, there are people right now in these cities that think that their food is produced and comes from the grocery store.
Hey,
like they really do.
Hey,
They
I will
think
give you. I will give you another. I'll give you two more examples. Then we can move on. We are at the Virginia State Fair, and it's about 2 hours away, I think. Richmond. This kid comes running by me, and I hear him hollering for his mom, and he's like, "Mom, right there's one of them cows they killed to get the milk out of."
Oh dear.
No, I'm being serious, dude. We're in Virginia. We're dairy farmers. We're not that far away from home. Well, I don't know, son. You'll have to ask the man if it's the calf they killed to get the milk out. Well, he comes running up to me.
That's
He's
sad.
He's like, "Sir, how come you have to kill the cow to get the milk?" I'm like,
I don't think it works that way.
"Yeah, buddy, it doesn't work that way." Well, Mom comes up and she's like, "Well, I know y'all kill them cows to get the milk out of it. I seen it on something." And I was like, "Ma'am, take 2 hours out of your day, drive up here, spend a day with me on the farm, and I will completely change your mind on what you think."
She's a mama. Shouldn't she understand how that
You would
that
think
works?
so. You would think so. Now that is completely stupid. Now for the other thing, there was a study that come out. It's one.
She didn't breastfeed that child. I can guarantee you that much.
He never
there's
latched onto a teat.
And now we're talking about an IQ deprivation, which is scientifically proven that if you don't breastfeed your child will be 10 IQ points lower as a result of it. Oops, there's another bomb.
Yeah, but you can't get milk out of silicone.
Come on now.
So there was a study. Let's see, it's been 3 years since I've been on the road with the calf tour. 3 years ago, there's a study done. It come out. It's like 1.7 million American adults believe that chocolate milk comes from brown cows. I met one of
so
those.
racist.
I met one of those guys. I met one of those guys. I spent 45 minutes trying to convince him that brown milk didn't come from brown cows.
Oh dear Lord, we are done as a race.
Look, this is what got him. This is what got him. I'm being serious, guys. We went back and forth.
That makes it even worse.
We went back and forth, and he said, "Man, I'm telling you, I know that chocolate milk comes from brown cows." Jesus. And I said, "Man, it's chocolate. They put chocolate in the milk to make your milk brown." No, all them brown cows, they produce chocolate milk. And I had only read this study like 2 days before this happened. And so I finally did. I mean, we're going back and forth, and he's not believing me. And so I finally asked him, I said, "Have you ever seen a red cow?"
Oh, no.
Because there is such a thing called a red Holstein.
Yes, there is.
I said, "Have you ever seen a red cow?" "Well, no." I said, "Well, if I can't convince you that brown cows don't produce brown milk," I said, "do you think I convince you that red cows produce strawberry milk?"
And McDonald's latched right onto it.
Oh, he did.
Anytime I've seen a cow that's producing red milk, that was a serious case of mastitis.
Oh dear, that's tragic. Not good.
Dude, I'm telling you.
But in today's day and age, that's just pure ignorance.
It
There's
is.
But it's not their fault, really. I mean, at the end of the day,
it's not their fault.
it's really
You're
not.
right.
And we shouldn't. I mean, even though it's fun to laugh about it, we shouldn't make fun of them because our job really is education.
It's education.
Here's a
It's
platform
disturbing,
for us to
isn't
do
it?
that.
That's right. That's right.
It's still a little funny though. I mean, it's still really hard because and it's not funny because they're that because the ignorance is at that high of a level. Well, maybe it is. Maybe it's just the fact that is.
Yeah, it is.
You would think that is such a commonsensical thing, just because, as somebody mentioned, a woman that's natural for babies, breast milk and stuff. You would think at the very, very basics of humanity.
Well, that's a reflection on the state of the education system.
Let me say it again. 3 years ago, 1.7 million adults, not adolescents, adults.
Thought the brown cows gave chocolate milk.
That's right.
God bless them.
I wonder how many of that 1.7 million vote Democrat.
Why did you have to take it there, Billy?
I wonder how many.
Because I wanted a reaction from Simon. Is really what I
Here we
wanted.
go.
I really wanted.
And it is actually. I mean, as Thad pointed out, that really, even though I nearly peed myself, that is absolutely tragic. That is even in.
It's troubling.
And that's a reflection on a percentage of the population.
What percentage of the population felt that 100 years ago, do you reckon?
None.
Zero.
That's right.
So, you know, that tells me that we have got such a disconnect with our farming agricultural industry and in a city. And what on earth is going on?
Well, this farmer spends all of his time on the farm trying to make everything work that he has no time.
Well, farmers had to turn into a banker.
That's right.
An accountant,
a stockbroker, and an accountant. I mean, a farmer has had to turn into everything but farming to try to make farming work.
a mechanic.
And, you know, all the regulations, USDA stamps, in my mind, that boils down to one thing: buying votes. You know, you balloon the federal government, you have regulators, you have this, you know, every person they can have working for the federal government is a guaranteed vote for the federal government. And to me, I mean, that's what it boils down to. You know, you minimize the federal government. You let the states regulate, each state regulate like they want to.
Like they should.
And are mandated to do. A lot of this changes, but then you minimize the federal government, then you just think about that.
Well, I'm going to take it a step further and go ahead and minimize the state government, because with technology today, why do you need all those regulations? Look, if Thad and Chris and you all were selling beef, what is wrong with people going? You can go in there and you can choose a doctor, you can choose a restaurant, you can choose 100 different things off the internet. You can go to each and every one of you and say, well, who's got the best reviews, who's got the best customer comments, who's got the most stars, or whatever. You can see through consumer, because that's what it all boils down to. You know, they always say you really vote with your dollar, you know.
Not anymore.
So you don't really need state regulations either. It's like, okay, well, if I'm going to try and go find beef from somebody, look at all three of y'all, and time again, for example, you know, there's, you know, I look at Amos as he only got 2 stars every time. Well, I'm not going to go to Amos. I'm going to go to Thad instead. You know, it's really that simple. You know, even with the state, you know, the state can provide a little bit of minimal, you know, oversight if need be, but we still don't even need. I can make my own damn decisions. I can decide which one of y'all I want to go to and which point in time in my life I want to do it. And if I got a problem with it, then I can voice that with you all face to face. I can't do it with the person at Kroger. If I got a problem with the meat at Kroger, I got to go deal with Kroger. And all Kroger is going to do is give me, you know, maybe a rebate. Maybe they'll say, oh, you know, here's a $10 gift certificate, or here's your money back. But they're not going to go above that and tell the farmer, hey, your product is shit right now. They don't care. You know what I mean? Like that's where the government,
because they don't know who the farmer is.
Well, exactly, and that's why you got to go away from the state as well.
I agree with you. However, let's go back and talk about this lady in Atlanta that's never been outside the city. So we have been visited by VDAX, our local store, because they wanted to make sure that we had a federal inspected stamp to sell by the pound. And they came in and looked, and they said, "Oh, y'all are good," and went out the door. And so I chit-chatted with him a little bit, and he said that generally, and I know this about Virginia Department of Agriculture, they understand that their job is to help us do better. You know, out here in agriculture.
That's what you want. That's what you want.
That's what we want. And so he told me, and this is one of, I don't know how many meat inspectors they got in the state of Virginia, but this is one that serves our area. He told me that he has prosecuted twice in his life. And one time, and this is the reason why we need state regulation. One time, he said a guy was getting meat out of the dumpster out from behind a grocery store, putting it in the freezer on the back of his pickup and selling it to that lady right there, because she don't know. Right. You know, she doesn't have a relationship. She has no way to have a relationship. And so there has to be some regulation for the fact that we have in our quest
to educate. But let's make it state.
Let's
make it state regulation.
Shouldn't there be something said by that lady?
Oh, that's right.
To be smart enough not to buy meat out of the back of a truck from somebody she doesn't know.
Yeah,
well,
but
I mean that's true.
Yeah, but a couple years ago, I haven't seen them lately. There was a pickup that used to run around in Franklin County.
Yeah.
And they sold fish and beef.
I'm not knocking those guys.
Yeah.
They some of those guys are no doubt legit, but I'm just telling you what the state inspector guy said.
Yeah.
You know,
and just like your Swans, man, you know, I've seen a Swans truck come up and down the Boone's Mill Works area since I was a kid. We used to have them, and you built a relationship, so you relied on his honesty to know that you was getting a product that wasn't. But it's like you said, you have these people who will go dumpster diving to make $1, and that's wrong.
Yeah. And the unscrupulous characters like that, no matter what industry they're in, if they're in house building or whatever, they need to be prosecuted.
No, I completely understand that. My point with it is, so if guy driving around his little Datsun pickup truck comes up to you with a slab of meat in the back, and he's got something on the side of his truck that says, you know, Bill's meat slinging business, or whatever. You have a smartphone right there. You have a smartphone. Google Bill's meat slinging business. See what they say. If it doesn't pop up, be like, well, hey, you're not even popped up on Google. I think I'm going to go ahead and pass. Maybe I'll go somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like, I understand. And that's where we have our cross. Is that makes a great point. You need that the government regulation for that situation. Only because
regulation.
For the vulnerable.
Only because the population is that ignorant. And that's not on them, but they shouldn't be. They should be smart enough to look the shit up on Google and be like, oh, well, I'm sorry, Bill, your meat slinging ain't going to be finding your way to my mouth today because I can't find you on Google.
Well, but we're assuming again that there's common sense, and common sense is not as common as we would like to think it
But
is.
we need to find a way. This is the reason they put freaking, warnings on shampoo bottles.
This is why developing relationships with local farmers from the local populace is a good idea. And there's another side to this. When you're talking about all the cuts of beef from, let's say, half a side of cow or half a side of sheep, whatever it may be, now you're getting some of the cheaper cuts. All right, so we know you get ground beef or ground lamb or whatever it may be, but now you're coming into some of the finer cuts that you cannot get in Kroger or Food Line or wherever.
Right.
You cannot get oxtail. Oxtail is one of the finest, if it's cooked correctly, is one of the finest cheap cuts of meat that isn't available in the big box stores. Thank you, Amos. That's another beer. You've got short ribs.
Melvin's Farm to Fork store sells oxtail.
There we
it's
go.
inspected, so you can come by it if you need.
I will definitely come by and get it, because when oxtail is cooked the way it should be, slowly, braised, and all that good stuff, it's absolutely spectacular. It's a cheap cut of meat. Cheap cuts of meat are not available in the box stores. I'd love to know where they go.
Where'd they go up at that place?
I'm sure they end up with eyelids, lips, and
Top full of peckers, peters, and lips.
Roger that.
Since 1943.
But
So,
these cheaper cuts of meat aren't available. And when you deal with a local farmer and getting your half a cow, carcass, whatever it may be, you are now getting access to those at a way cheaper price. And when you learn how to cook them properly, which is another art form in itself, and I'd love to, at some point, my dream is to do a farm-to-table show that allows people and gives people the access to be able to cook these dishes correctly. Because it's a lost art, because everyone swings around and you've got slabs of pork in the store, country ribs and your ribeye steaks. No one knows how to cook these cheaper cuts. And isn't that an economical way to feed your family?
Well, I'll start saving oxtails for you, Simon. I'm sorry.
So, Thad, how many of your customers that come into the store? I can't tell you because I don't sell by the pound like you do. How many of the customers that you have that come in the store know what an oxtail is?
We sell out. We can't keep them.
There you go.
And we can't keep none of the organ meat except for livers. The only thing that we.
All right, let me.
Because a
how many
liver-
Steak and kidney pie.
How many?
The kidney and the heart generally is sold. Somebody has reserved it before the cows come back.
Really?
Yeah.
Yep.
And there's lots of people that eat liver too, but generally, you get from a cow, from a pretty good sized cow, you get 10 pounds of liver. So
That's right.
You're not. I mean, we sell out liver too, but it don't. Get
I guess
much
I'm
quick.
spoiled.
So, what's your age group, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, they're all over the place. We have college students. Not too many of them.
Buying oxtail?
We have some of those. Yeah, buying organ meats, not oxtail that I know of.
No, but
You
I
have
mean,
to ask my wife. She runs the store.
Right.
And we have all the way up to. I mean, we have all our customer base goes all the way up to. I think my wife was talking about one of her favorite customers just passed away. She was 92, and she comes to our store once a week.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, there's my father-in-law comes out with a great statement. He will not touch kidney. And the reason he says that he won't eat or touch kidney, and steak and kidney pie, let me tell you, is fantastic. But anyway, his statement, and it makes me laugh every time I hear it, is because you got to cook the piss out of it.
The only good liver I've ever seen has been on the end of a fishing hook.
Yeah, I'm not. I can't. I've tried it.
Organ meats they're different. When it comes to haggis, the organ meats from the sheep go into the basic sausage product with the liver and the heart and that good stuff. And when it goes in, when it gets combined with all the mace and the other herbs, sage and all that good stuff, it's a fantastic product.
Do you like chitlins?
Because of the herd share program we have a lot of people who are coming to find products to improve their health.
That's right.
And organ meat is where they go to, but a lot of them are just like you guys say, well, I don't like liver. Well, you've cooked it straight with onions or something, and you've tried to eat it straight, and you don't, your palate don't like it.
Liver onions
I've
and
never
gravy
cooked
is
I love
off
it.
the chart.
I'd eat it 3 to 4 times a week.
You got mountain oysters in your store?
I was going to ask that question next. I was
I
wondering.
knew someone was going to come up with mountain oysters.
Like Simon said about a program
Simon says.
to teach people how to cook this stuff. Our recommendation is, because people ask, well, what do you do with it? We'll put it in a blender and put it in meatloaf.
Yep.
So that way you get that organ nutrition, because the minerals and vitamins that the cow consumes over her lifetime are in those organs.
Mm-hmm.
And so the most nutritious part of that animal is actually in the organs.
And that's one of the ways, an offshoot perhaps from the podcast for me is to do a farm to table show, a visual show that shows the sourcing of what we eat, how we can source these products, whether it's in the form of doing your own vegetable gardens and what have you, with regards to getting the right fish that we can get from lakes, rivers, and ocean, and where we can get
You
our
make your own
local,
liquor on the
our
farm to
local
table
produce.
episode. Make your own liquor, build your own shelves. We got a plethora of things we can do.
So, but to be able to do that isn't actually a hard step, and it's a passion of mine that I would like to explore. I've gone down a few avenues there, and it wouldn't be that hard to be able to come up with some show that would be able to highlight this. It's a passion of mine that I feel very strongly about, because when we moved our family from the Caribbean to here, one of the driving principles about what we were doing in the foothills was being able to produce our own food that would allow us to control the quality of the food that we gave to ourselves.
Right. And that's how I met Simon. They just moved here. They wanted to farm. I'm pretty sure they didn't have a clue what they were doing.
Didn't have a damn clue.
And so
First to admit it, don't care.
I ran into,
but everyone can do it. This is the thing.
I ran into his wife, and they had some goats or whatever. We're all farmers.
That's right.
I've never looked at any other farm. Y'all are not my competition. It's not like it. I would.
Well, you're my competition because you have your own butcher shop. But no, I'm just.
But I feel like that. I've never felt that way about farmers, which is probably one of the very few things that is not looked at that way.
Yeah, because there's enough people in the world to feed. You know what I mean? Like,
that's right.
Food right now, especially in the times we find ourselves in, food is almost a commodity at this point.
2023 is going to be a challenge. Watch out and wake up.
Very much so.
You look at farmers, and if one farmer is struggling, and I'll give you an
everybody
example,
helps.
Everybody will jump in and help. At least it used to be that way. You don't see it quite as much now because everybody is trying to get their crops in at the optimal time for quality and tonnage. But years ago, so my boss man's dad, Donnie Montgomery, when he was growing up, it was one tractor, one chopper, and one wagon that did 90% of the chopping on 3 farms.
But it's still that way. Farmers are tight knit. If there was something catastrophic happening, Thad's dairy barn went down. Don't tell me for a minute that the next farm up the road wouldn't come down there with trailers and pick them cows up and take them and milk them.
For 100%, yes, they would.
Farmers are tight knit.
Yes, we actually had a family member. His wife come up sick. He was spending time at the doctor's office, and the neighbor farmer said, "Don't worry about your crops. We'll take care of them. We'll get them in for you."
And
how many carpenters? If you went out sick, I'm talking major family member, major health issues. How many carpenters would say, "Hey, we're gonna come finish that job for you"?
None. Well, I ain't gonna say none.
You would.
I got friends in low places, but
you would.
Yeah. But farmers will take care of each other.
Well, who are you gonna let do it? The idiot that lives up the street that wants to smoke dope and shoot heroin? It's a lifestyle.
It's not an easy path either.
No.
Well, but ultimately, it's the land and the animals are God's,
That's
Yes, they
right.
are.
and we're called to be stewards of God's things.
That might be
And
the best way I've ever
So
heard
Yeah.
farming put.
the simple fact of the matter is if a neighbor is in a bad way and can't do, you go look after the things that the Lord put there for him.
That's right.
That might be the best way I've ever heard farming put.
I said, he don't say much, but when he speaks, you're supposed to listen.
One of my favorite things is the whole the Paul Harvey thing. So God made a farmer.
Yeah.
It's just, I just don't think anybody wakes up and says, I want to be a farmer. Well, okay, maybe Simon.
Well, Simon's cut from a different cloth.
Amen on that.
They call it.
Ask him if he knows what a wheelbarrow is.
The reason why that is because because you have no controllables. Most other jobs that you take, you control a large portion of what you do.
And all the variables.
Yeah, the risks, you control the risk, you control the income, and in farming you have no control over any of that.
You can't
Because
control.
a third party has got their filthy little mitts on it.
Well, no, it's not just that, but you can't control a calf that's being born backwards.
Yeah, you can't
Mother
control
Nature.
the weather. You can't
Yeah.
control the
Oh
weather.
no, I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to dealing with margins, there are way too many third-party hands in it,
Yeah.
which is.
But
My sole purpose in life right now is to get people speaking to farmers and developing relationships.
Well, they
with
probably going to do it
farmers.
after this podcast.
the reason why that is, Simon, is because it's become big business, and so it's not local anymore.
That's right.
So
And
we don't
there's
buy
the
from
tragedy.
our local, and we don't have the infrastructure. We don't have a mill around here that can grind wheat and make it into bread.
Which brings me to my Summit View idea.
And I'm gonna tell you what the role of the federal government is. We can't eliminate them because they have a job. You know what that job
It's
is?
a very limited job, and they've overstepped their.
Yeah, well, they have very
bounds.
few, but one of the jobs they have to do domestically, which is almost none, is antitrust enforcement. And
How's that going?
That's a bit of a
They
conflict
will
of
not.
interest.
They will not do it. And why won't they do it? You love lawyers. You tell us.
I despise. Don't get me on that one.
Don't you talk about your friend John Boynton like
No,
that.
Johnny is my John Boynton is a friend. I've known him for 15 years, and we've had a relationship, and it has never crossed those boundaries.
No, I was throwing punches at Simon.
I know
Me
you
and
were.
Simon have become really good buddies. That's my mate
That's
with that southern twang.
Alrighty, folks, that's the end of part one. We'll be releasing part two most likely next week. Maybe something in between. Who knows what will come up between now and then. But you can listen to the entire show and the rest of it at our Patreon page at patreon.com/getontap. And it's only $3 a month. You get to listen to our full entire episodes early. You also are going to get some of the subscriber content we're coming out with this week that we spoke about at the beginning of the show. So go ahead and check that out. We certainly appreciate all the help and the support because we always are putting it right back into our community. Just want to once again thank Simon, Amos, Thad, and Chris for coming by here. It was a phenomenal show. Part two is going to be great, so be able to be on the lookout for that one. Be sure to check out them on Facebook at Melvin's Farm to Fork. And we'll see you next time.